Welcome, curious minds, to another deep dive. Have you ever heard a claim that sounds, well, so outlandish, so impossible, really, that it just makes you stop and really wonder? Today, we're plunging into a pretty fascinating corner of the internet. There's this one inventor claiming he's doing exactly that, building impossible machines. Who? Yeah, so we're going to tackle a specific claim from this inventor. His name's Trevor. It's from his online video, Gravity Harvesting, an impossible machine made possible. Our mission today really is to unpack what he even means by impossible machines. How does he claim to, get around what seem like fundamental physical laws? And what makes his main invention, the gravity harvesting electricity generator, a GHEG, supposedly so different from gravity systems we already know about? Get ready to think outside the box a little bit because we're looking for those aha moments, trying to bridge that gap between what sounds impossible and what, well, might just be incredibly innovative. So let's jump right in. Trevor, the mind behind this new Real Thinking Impact channel. He's an inventor. And his first video introduces this gravity harvesting electricity generator, the GHEG. And he calls some of his inventions impossible machines. What does he mean by that?
Okay. Right. So, according to Trevor himself, an impossible machine is something that, well, based on the laws of physics as we understand them, it just shouldn't work. You could physically build the thing, but there are these critical physical counter effects in nature that stop it from actually functioning. He has a classic example, like an engine trying to go faster than light speed. We deem that impossible because, light speed is supposed to be the limit.
Okay, that's a strong claim, right? Especially given, well, the history of claims like free energy out there. But Trevor is really insistent. He says his inventions are not that usual YouTube hype. No free energy, no perpetual motion. He sees them as serious things, patentable inventions meant to be manufactured, sold, help people. So how does he draw that line? What's the difference he's pointing to?
Yeah, that's the really interesting part, his distinction. He's quite clear that his impossible machines don't actually defy the laws of physics. That's key. Instead, he says they use, and this is his phrasing, innovative techniques, methods, and contrivances to sort of relate to these laws. He agrees the laws are true. You can't ignore them. He uses this analogy or example. Imagine a machine that looks like it's putting out more energy than it takes in, breaking the no machine is 100% efficient rule. He suggests, well, maybe you could use a battery that just for a short burst outputs more energy than it's currently being charged with. So the machine appears to do the impossible, but you're still acknowledging, yeah, there are inefficiencies overall.
Okay, so it's less about breaking rules and more about, clever engineering around them. He's not trying to ignore those counter effects, the things that usually stop these machines. He's trying to actively deal with them, finding ways to make it work even when those effects are pushing back hard. Maintaining the physical laws while acquiring the impossible effect. That's quite a phrase. And this GHEG, this gravity generator, is supposed to be one of those machines designed to pull energy from Earth's gravity itself.
Exactly. That's the claim for the GHEG.
Okay, so let's zoom in on that GHEG then. He claims it's much better, that's his term, than the gravity systems we know. Things like gravity light, pendulums, pumped hydro storage, even standard hydroelectric dams. What does much better actually mean here? How is it different?
Well, connecting it back to that physics point, existing gravity systems, they're basically like gravity rechargeable batteries. That's a good way to think about it. They definitely use Earth's gravity, the force pulling down, but they don't actually extract net energy from that force field itself. Instead, gravity just acts as the storage medium. You put energy in from somewhere else first, store it against gravity like lifting something up, and then you let gravity release it. And crucially, the energy you get out is always less than what you put in because, machines aren't perfect. Friction, other losses.
Right. So storage, not a source. Gravity is the shelf, not the actual stuff on the shelf. And you said they need two independent energy sources to work. That seems key.
Exactly. That's the fundamental limitation he's highlighting. One source is obviously Earth's gravity, pulling things down, making the machine operate in one direction. But you absolutely need that second source to charge it or reset it, to move something back up against gravity for the next cycle. Without that second input, the system just runs down once and stops. It can't keep going.
Can you give us some examples, from his video or just generally?
Sure. He mentions a few. A simple pendulum, right?
Huh?
It won't start swinging and generating energy unless you push it first. That's your input energy. Or think about hydro pump storage. That uses electricity, often from solar panels or wind turbines, maybe even fossil fuels, to pump water uphill into a reservoir. That's storing potential energy. Then later, they let the water run back down through turbines, using gravity to get electricity back. But it started with
external electricity, even standard hydroelectric dams, which seem really passive just using river flow, they actually rely on the sun. Solar energy drives the Earth's water cycle, evaporating water and lifting it back up to higher elevations as rain or snow. So even they are kind of a rechargeable battery, using both gravity and solar energy, even though we don't always think of the solar part directly.
Huh. I never really thought about the water cycle as the second energy source for hydro dams. That makes sense.
And this brings up, the really important question. Why can't you just use gravity as the only energy source in these existing machines? Why the need for the reset? It boils down to what Trevor calls the energy canceling effect. That's pretty intuitive, actually. Gravity always pulls down. So, okay, you generate some energy from that downward motion, let's say 10 units. But then to make it cycle, to keep it going, you have to lift something back up against gravity. And that costs you, well, ideally, 10 units of energy, maybe more with losses. So you have 10 units gained minus 10 units or more lost in the reset. The net result, zero energy or even negative. That cancellation effect is why gravity, so far, has only really worked as that rechargeable battery medium, not a primary source you can continuously tap.
It's like trying to fill a bucket with a hole in the bottom, the same size as the tap you put water in, but it flows right out. You don't actually accumulate anything. And this specific problem, this energy canceling effect, is what Trevor claims his GHEG overcomes. He's asserting his machine can use gravity as its only energy source. He found very different ways to make it work, making the impossible possible.
That is precisely the claim. He says the GHEG has specific features, contrivances, designed to deal with this exact energy canceling effect. Now, the source material, the video, it keeps the exact mechanics confidential, patents pending, that sort of thing.
Understandable.
But the core assertion is that it uses these innovative techniques, methods, and contrivances, that phrase again, to genuinely extract net energy from Earth's gravity, producing electricity. And he adds a crucial point. He says it appears to defy the first and second laws of thermodynamics, the conservation of energy law.
The big ones, yeah.
The really big ones. But he insists that in actuality it does not. That's a very fine line he's walking.
It definitely is. And like he says himself in the video, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. That we don't have the evidence here, obviously, just the claim. But understanding the concept he's putting forward is interesting in itself. It's a different way of framing the problem. And it's not just the GHEG, right? He mentions other things he calls impossible machines. A motion induction engine, a fuelless engine. He's also careful to say the GHEG isn't a free energy machine in that, typical internet sense.
Yes, he elaborates a bit on why those typical free energy concepts are generally considered impossible. Usually it's because they lack a viable, sustainable energy source within the system itself. Energy has to come from somewhere. You can't just have a machine power itself indefinitely by feeding its own output back into its input. The losses would eventually just make it grind to a halt. There's no external primary source being tapped.
So if you boil it all down, his core message, his philosophy maybe, for all these impossible machines seems to be this. Don't deny physics. Don't ignore the laws or those critical counter effects that stop things from working. Acknowledge them. But then find new ways, maybe using new tech, new knowledge, different thinking to make allowances for them, to build contrivances around them. It sounds like it's about not just giving up when nature says no because of some...
Exactly. It's about pushing further, trying to understand why nature says no in that specific instance, and seeing if there's a clever way to sidestep or manage that no. He literally says the impossible, although difficult, can be made possible. It's about reframing impossible. It's just very, very difficult, needing innovation.
Wow. Okay, that was a really intriguing deep dive into Trevor's world, this idea of impossible machines. We've seen how he tries to distinguish his claims from, the perpetual motion stuff we usually dismiss pretty quickly. His whole approach, it seems, isn't about throwing out the physics textbook, but finding really innovative ways to navigate the tricky parts, the counter effects, even with something as basic and powerful as gravity.
Indeed. And I think this discussion really underscores how important precise definitions are, right? And just critical thinking when you encounter these kinds of extraordinary claims. It pushes us to think about the subtle but maybe crucial differences between machines that just store and reuse energy from multiple sources versus something that claims to genuinely extract net energy from a single constant force like gravity by cleverly tackling those inherent challenges like the canceling effect. Knowledge is great, but it's most valuable when it's properly understood and applied. Getting multiple perspectives definitely helps enrich that understanding.
Absolutely. So as you mull this over, maybe ask yourself, how do you draw the line? When you hear about breakthroughs, how do you differentiate between, say, genuine innovation that's pushing boundaries And claims that might just be, well, misunderstanding or maybe ignoring established science. When does something that seems impossible just become really hard, maybe solvable with a fresh insight or a new technology? Something to think about. Keep that curiosity buzzing, everyone. And we'll see you on the next deep dive.